Right now, we're getting an update today on the status of the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Metrolinx CEO Phil Verster is speaking.
About our progress on the Eglinton Crosstown. I'm Phil Verster. I'm the CEO and President of Metrolinx. And I'm joined by Phil Taberner, and Phil will do a little bit of a technical briefing to discuss some of the issues and complexities we have on the Eglinton Crosstown project. So I'd like to start off by saying over the last several months, CTS has worked very closely with Metrolinx and have rectified and improved their schedule to complete the Eglinton Crosstown project. All the activities that are required to complete the project are now in the schedule. All the links and dependencies between these activities are also incorporated, and it's a much better schedule according to which to complete the work. However, CTS is still finding technical issues and defects during the testing and commissioning phase. Issues and defects that require additional time and additional resources to rectify. And all of these additional activities are adding to the completion of the project and the opening date. From the new schedule we have a very good understanding of when the Eglinton Crosstown is likely to open. But we are right in the middle of a high-risk testing and commissioning phase, and issues are found and rectified every week, and these issues affects the completion date every week. Now, I have to tell you that I had every intention to predict an opening date or series or range of possible opening dates for the Eglinton Crosstown with you today. But I've decided against doing so, based on the fact that CTS is finding and rectifying issues on a week-by-week basis, and that this affects the opening date significantly. I'll give you one example, and we'll talk about it some more, but 3 weeks ago, CTS informed us that operator training had to be suspended due to availability issues with the fleet. Now, these are being rectified, but that will again add a chunk of time into the chunk of delay into the opening date. And so we will announce an opening date once the high-risk testing and commissioning work has been completed, but not before that time. Now, any prediction of an opening date at this stage of the project will just be an estimate. And I'm not comfortable giving that to you as an estimate. When I give you a date, it must be something that I believe in. We're not there yet. And it won't give anyone any certainty if we gave you any date today. But today we again commit to our communities that both CTS and Metrolinx have teams out there, 1,400 people in total, that are totally committed to delivering this project and are working hard every day to get this program and project over the line. And we also commit to update the public and the communities continuously over the next period of time, every 2 months, on the progress we're making. So let me give you a sense what Phil Taberner will share in the technical briefing. The completion of the project is entirely reliant on CTS meeting the following key milestones. The construction must be completed, mostly so at Eglinton and Young Station. The testing and commissioning phase, which is at the heart of the critical path going forward, must be completed. And all quality defects and deficiencies must be rectified to ensure we've got a safe and reliable transit system when we open. CTS must also secure the certification of the complete design and all occupancy certificates for all of the public spaces. And the training of the operators and crews is absolutely critical from this point onwards. Now, several of you have asked me separately and in the press about why Eglinton Crosstown has been delayed. And I want to just reflect on the fact that Eglinton Crosstown is one of the most complex transit projects I've dealt with. It's definitely one of the most complex projects in North America. And it had to be managed through COVID-19, through the pandemic, and also through the expected complexities of any of these large transit projects. And if I break it down into 4 parts for you, and most of this is in the public domain, but let's share it again. There was approximately 12 months of delay that was caused by the initial design submissions by CTS that took longer given the complexity of the project. There was a further 3 months of delay caused by a technical defect on line 1 and the TTC box on the underneath side of that box, and Phil will show you some of that in one of the pictures he has in the presentation deck. And COVID-19 had a 7-month delay impact on the critical path of this project. The last and fourth factor is the fact that the testing commissioning, the phase we are in now, is taking longer than expected. But I'd like to turn over to Phil now so that he can take you through the technical briefing and take you through a presentation of what are the complexities and issues that we've encountered on the project and what we're doing about those. Thank you very much. Over to you, Phil.
So, good afternoon. I'm Phil Taberner. I'll take you through the technical briefing pack. A lot of today's messaging will focus on the testing and commissioning. We also want to talk to you today about the delays we've experienced to date, relating to the lateness of the design, the impacts from COVID, the unforeseen significant repairs at Eglinton Station. These repairs were to the concrete slab to the underside of the existing TTC station. As Phil says, we now have a new schedule from CTS, which will be updated monthly. Construction is pretty much complete, but for a small section of work at Eglinton Young. We're in an extensive phase of testing and commissioning, and through the testing and commissioning, faults and issues will arise. The time taken to rectify can be unpredictable, which is why we are not prepared to predict a date at this stage. We do intend providing regular updates of the progress the team is making. So next slide, slide 3. So the dashboard overview. We intend providing regular updates on the 4 main work streams. These are the testing and commissioning, the certification of design, the remaining construction, and certifying of stations and facilities for the safe occupancy. Today's focus will mostly be on the critical elements, which are the testing and commissioning. So next slide, the dashboard. So we talked about transparency and full transparency. This update will be in all subsequent briefings from now on. Of the 4 main work streams, the most important for now is the testing and commissioning. There are 3 critical types. It's a linear process, and it goes through a PICO stage, what we call a SAT stage, and a SIT stage. So what are these? So the PICO, this is checks that an asset has been installed, it's been fixed and fitted as per the design in the correct location. The site acceptance tests, this checks to ensure the asset is functional, it's powered up, and it works in isolation. And then we move into the systems integration testing, and this is the most important phase. It establishes that the system in question is working as a whole, and this is a lot more complex than the PICOs and the SATs. So the other 3 work streams will then simply follow logically after the testing and commissioning. And testing and commissioning can be unpredictable. It is a high-risk phase of the project. There will be a 5th stream at some stage, and that will be update you soon on the training, and that will be added in later briefings. So slide 5, the underlying causes for delay. Now here's the important stuff to note that's caused our delays. The image on the left of this photograph is the underside of the existing TTC station at Eglinton. When we started excavating immediately below it, it was apparent that the structural integrity of the concrete slab was compromised. And here we can see ducts and pipes that were cast in the original concrete slab where the concrete had lost its integrity. This defect in the existing TTC station could not have been anticipated. So dealing with this one issue at the most complex part of our project, Eglinton Station, caused several months of delay. And then on the right is an image from the COVID pandemic. The contractor's work was significantly disrupted and delayed. Protocols had to be introduced, safety measures, proximity of workers, cleaning regimens, And of course, we had a significant percentage of the workforce missing or stood down when cases of COVID were discovered. The COVID constraints impacted us working in confined spaces, and of course, the global supply chain was disrupted. Slide 6. So testing and commissioning. We've identified this to be a complex phase and is a high-risk portion of the project. Issues can emerge. This is a living and breathing element. Certain tests sometimes have to be expanded, but as we make progress with these, the quantity of risk also diminishes. The T&C, or test and commissioning, is rigorous. It's performed to well thought through documented plans. And when completed, it's again well documented and signed off as each test gets done. So the post-installate checkout tests, so some numbers and statistics. There are nearly 41,000 assets, with 89% of our way through completing those. Then in terms of the SATs, approximately 35,500, and we've got 23,500 complete. And then the site, it's a system integration tests that sits almost 1,000 of these, but we are only in the infancy with having 6% currently complete. So we want the tests to be rigorous, and we want to identify these issues. This then gives us the assurance that we've got a robust, safe and reliable railway. I mean, one example quite recently, as we commenced the training, we experienced issues with the way some of the signalling system worked, and that now needs some software updates to get it fixed. The fixes will then need to be tested to ensure that they work properly. Okay, slide 7. Now some of the images of the types of issues being tested and commissioned. So in the winter, we all know the rail will get cold. We've also got moving parts that could freeze. So these areas need localized heaters. Each of the heaters and the rail switch points are checked to ensure they work properly. There are 29 electrical heaters across the alignment, and then we have a further 50 heaters in the maintenance yard. Those ones are gas-fired. At the maintenance yard also, we have an image there of the wash bay for the vehicles, so that even the wash bay is tested to ensure it works sufficiently to support the fleet of 76 vehicles. So next slide. So testing the audibility of station announcements. So the sound from the public address systems have to be tested to ensure it's properly audible to the public. This is a safety critical element, as is the tunnel ventilation. It's also safety critical. It's vigorously tested with airflow rates. It's monitored to ensure it performs in line with the design. Slide 9. So deficiencies and certification. I've just explained that the testing and commissioning is complex. Testing and inspections sometimes uncover defects and deficiencies. Deficiencies have got to be fixed. So what are they? They're quality failures and defects, things that are not right and not acceptable. Deficiencies have got to be broken out, repaired or put right by CTS. Some recent examples, Phil's mentioned in the past, the track work. We've had an element of rectification has been performed to allow training to commence, and CTS is still working on a final solution. Groundwater has penetrated some of the stations and some of the locations in the tunnels, and again, CTS are very busy addressing this challenge. And then the media previously reported the Sloan Stop platform being broken out and relayed, which it was. In terms of certification, the professional of record is required to sign off on the final solutions for all of the 514 packages of work. This culminates in Metrolinx receiving 46 construction certificates, and that's certifying that the works have been designed, constructed and commissioned as per the contract requirements. So an incredible quantity of rectification has been performed already. Further work is now required before we reach revenue service. And it's not uncommon to have this phase of defect rectification, but as you'll appreciate, it does take some time to work our way through. And again, another reason why we're not prepared to predict an end date at this stage.
Sorry, quick question. You said it was 260 deficiencies. What's the number now?
As of last week, I think it dropped to 220 something, but it's a moving number. It trends in the right direction, and there's a lot of effort goes into driving those down. So the risks reduce as work progresses. And then the Sloan stop, as an example, the surface water was pooling and not draining properly. So this would have been a safety hazard, as it was not built to the design. Fixing it now is much easier than disrupting the travelling public once the project was in service. So we continue to work hard with CTS to ensure we've got sufficient fix of deficiencies to ensure we've got a safe and reliable railway. So Phil Verster previously made you aware of some of the track deficiencies. CTS has done an amount of intervention of resetting some of the rails and grinding the rails in some locations. So this is an image from the rail grinding operation. This was a remedy implemented by CTS to facilitate training commencing safely. So slide 12 is remaining construction. Any tour of the stations, the project looks pretty much complete. Of the 19 kilometres of surface, we've got approximately 400 metres left to complete. The main focus now is at the Eglinton Young intersection. So CTS are really busy on the remaining short stretch. They're finishing off connections to the adjacent property owners, upgrading the water mains, restoring the underground utilities, and then constructing the new roadway. So slide 13. So these are two images. The first photograph looks west along Eglinton Avenue. This is where the water main upgrades have taken place. The underground services or utilities are being restored, followed by the construction of the new road surface. The other photograph is in the opposite direction, looking east. Here we've got several crews who are very busy restoring the utilities before again we can reinstate the roadway. Next slide. So as I said earlier, the project is looking complete. This image is of the main concourse in Eglinton Station. It's the artwork that's on the wall. So other than the testing and commissioning, to all intents and purposes, the stations look to be complete. Next slide. So certifying facilities for safe occupancy. The next step involves lots and lots of collaboration between all of the parties. The TTC is our operator, the city for our permits, CTS and Metrolinx working closely together. The only way this project is going to get complete now successfully is by collaboration and working together. CTS are working closely with the city to secure the necessary occupancy permits, and happy to report that last week CTS secured the first batch for the stops. This is an important process and part of us driving for a safe and reliable asset that we can all be proud. Slide 16. So safe occupancy requires the stations to be signed off by the city's building control. Fire alarms are tested. This includes both audible signals as well as visual alerts. And these two images indicate both. Slide 17. I mentioned earlier the life-critical support systems, including ventilation. So these fan units are huge. They're approximately 4 meters high. They're at most of the stations. We've got 2 sets of these fans at each end.
We've been listening to Metrolinx executives talking about the update on the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. We were hoping to get an update as to a timeline on when this LRT was going to be completed. That's not the case. What we're finding out is that they're still finding technical issues and defects that require additional time and resources to rectify, and it's all adding to the completion timeline. We know that this is a $5.5 billion project that has been years that was supposed to open up in 2020, so it's been delayed for years, but they will announce some of the high-risk work that has been completed, but according to CEO Phil Verster, he's just not comfortable in giving an estimated timeline for its completion date.